So moved. As amended. So moved, seconded. Any further additions or changes to the agenda? Seeing none. Nobody made eye contact. That's great. All those in favor? Motion carries. The minutes of our regular board meeting of July 25th, 2019. May I have a motion to receive and adopt? So moved, seconded. Any errors, omissions, changes that need to be made? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carries. The special board meeting minutes of August 8th, 2019, Annex B, pages 13, 14. Motion to adopt. So moved. Seconded. 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 Any changes, errors, additions, changes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carries. Is there any business arising from the minutes or unfinished business? Director McMahon.
Yes, I was just wondering, the active transportation strategy MOU that came to us in July, I guess. I was just wondering if there had been any further updates on that, or whether it would be on next week's infrastructure agenda.
I'll look over to staff for any advice on that.
Thank you for the question, Chair. Staff are working on the directions that were provided by the board, and we'll have a report to a future committee. At this stage, staff don't anticipate that it will be at next week's Infrastructure Services Committee.
Thank you. Any other business arising from minutes, unfinished business? Seeing none, we'll go down to presentations and delegations. We have none today. We do have our series of reports. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for receipt of all reports at this time, if I can have a motion for that. So moved and seconded. All those in favor? Motion carries. And we'll move on to item number 4, Annex C, pages 15 to 19 of your agenda package. Directors, are there any of those Corporate and Admin Services Committee recommendations of July 25th that you would like to pull out of the block and discuss separately? Okay, nobody's making a big move, so I'll ask for a motion to adopt those recommendations, please. So moved and seconded. Seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, so on 4A, which was added from earlier today, and thank you once again to staff for their indulgence with us, pages 19A to C, and these are the Planning and Community Development Committee recommendations numbers 4, 11, 12, 13, 20, 25, and 27 of earlier today. Directors, do you want to pull out any one of those recommendations before we move all of them in a block? Any further discussion on any one of those? No? Seeing none? Okay, may I ask for a motion to adopt those recommendations? So moved. Seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next up, Annex D of our package, page 20 to 30. It is over to the CAO for our 2019 to 2023 strategic plan. CAO, please.
Thank you, Chair Pratt. The CAO report basically is a synopsis of the strategic plan for 2019 to 2023, which was done in consultation with the consultant and was facilitated over a period of time from January to July of this year. Senior staff participated and provide technical advice. There is a number of areas that this board is wanting to concentrate on, and they've been identified in 5 strategic focus areas. The 5 areas are engagement and communications, and this is to proactively engage with our residents, partners, and staff in order to share information and obtain their input on issues and decisions that affect them. The second strategic focus area is infrastructure management, and this is to ensure that the SCRD's built and natural assets serve our residents now and in the future. The third strategic focus area is regional collaboration and partnership, And this is to lead, encourage, and support our partners and stakeholders in working together to understand and address the opportunities and challenges facing our region. The fourth strategic focus area is climate change and resilience. And this is to move swiftly to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and enhance our region's resiliency to the effects of a changing climate. The final and fifth strategic focus area is advocacy. And this is to advance a collective voice to represent the interests of the region with the provincial and federal governments and other agencies responsible for providing governance and services in our region. Along with the strategic plan, there is a number of tactics and strategies which are listed in the document. There's a work plan that will be developed with staff in consultation with the board, as well as being intertwined with the financial plan process, which will begin very shortly. So it will be a matter of looking at the strategic plan over the 2019 to 2023 period and ensuring that there are both staff resources and financial resources to implement this tactics and strategies that the board has outlined here. With that, there will also be a communications plan, which will not only be internal communications with our staff to ensure that, along with the senior leadership team, the staff that work for the SCRD are aware of the strategic priorities of the board and how best to resource them within their own departments. There will also be an external communication strategy to let our partners know in the SCRD, with the other municipal local governments in particular, that we have to work with them, as stated in the plan, on collaborating and partnerships to ensure that the services and focus areas that are identified by the board are done in consultation with our partners. So with that, I turn it over to the board for their decision on adopting the strategic plan.
Okay, thank you, CAO. First thing, I'm going to ask for a motion to receive there was a sheet of paper that was just passed out to staff and to the directors, and that's just, it's an edited board message, and so if I could just ask for receipt of that document. So moved, seconded, all those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, and now I will open it up to the directors for your comments and questions, and see where this goes. Director McMahon, would you like to start?
Yes, I've been at wordsmithing again, but it just, not that there was anything wrong in terms of content with our message. I just thought it got a little repetitive and wanted to tighten it up. Thank you, that's the word. And also, I was a little curious about some of the capitalization choices. So these are just edits for clarity, really, more than anything else that I'm suggesting.
As the person who wrote the board message, I will apologize for my overcapitalization and over-word usage and my lack of succinctness. But I'm happy to, I've read through your edits, and I'm happy to accept those if the board is as well. I'm going to look around. Directors, any other comments, questions? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Director Ties. I'm busy looking over down the other side of the table.
Yeah, the one item where I kind of drew a blank as to how it related to each other was under advocacy, section topic number 5.5, climate emergency and solid waste regulations. I'm not clear as to what that is actually talking about. Maybe somebody can, if I don't know what it's talking about, maybe we should put a little bit more of a description to it, because then I should be the one that knows about what it's talking about.
I'll look over to staff for clarity on that. It is 5.5. What page? It's page 29 of the agenda package, or page 15 of the strategic plan.
Sorry, we're just trying to research our notes here. I don't have specific notes on that item, but what I could do is consult with our corporate services and as well as the consultant who has further information, and we could put a better descriptor there.
Thank you. Okay. Directors, any further? I will bring forward, I have received some comments from, or a couple of comments from public after seeing that the strat plan was in the board package, and it was regarding the just as a comment that they felt our language around the highway and highway improvements was not strong enough. So I'll bring that forward as a comment that I've received so far, but also with the question of what we want to do with community outreach regarding the plan as a board, and if our staff has what they've done, what the previous boards have done in the past with community outreach regarding the strategic plan. I know at the beginning of this process, we had discussed a little bit about what we might do, about presenting to not just to staff, but our other local governments, as like the board chair and CEO could do. And just look to staff for comment on that, as well as directors if you have any comments. CEO, anything?
We are drafting an action plan for communications, as I stated earlier, on external communication and outreach, but I would welcome specific direction if the CAO and the board chair would attend the three municipal councils. I think that's a great alternative or addition to the implementation of the plan.
Director McMahon.
Yeah, I was just wondering how the other governments are doing with their strategic plans. Perhaps we could have a little strategic plan festival.
We did that at the intergovernmental meeting earlier this year. But as soon as we adopt the plan, then it's good to go out and put a request on other councils and see if they're open to us presenting. Yes, Director Beamish.
Yeah, just an update of the Gibsons. We are also drafting second, third draft of our plan right now. It's actually going to go to council shortly. Our intention is to hold a dialogue on it on September 30th as a draft plan with the community. So we'll be holding a dialogue and talking about anybody who comes and talking about the plan. I've suggested that we might have each one of our council members take one of the priorities in the plan and be the champion for that and talk about that at that session sort of thing. So September the 30th we'll be holding that.
So would you do you need a motion for further board direction on this, or just simply, because as directors, this is our plan, and we need to take some of the responsibility ourselves in making sure this plan is communicated into the community. So whether or not we're presenting it to our community associations as part of our directors' reports, as our area planning commissions, and just being available. So Director McMahon, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I was just thinking perhaps we should forward the draft plan to our APCs. I believe most of the APCs are meeting while we're away at UBCM. But
would you like a motion for that, or is that...
Thank you for the question. I think what we could do actually is probably send it to all our committees and commissions. I think that would be very prudent. To answer your question, no board. I don't think a board motion is necessary.
What we're thinking is, I'm hearing maybe a want to do that before it's fully adopted. Is staff comfortable with that?
I guess as you stated, it's the board's plan. The intention was to adopt it and then circulate it, but if you'd wish additional input, that's another avenue to explore. But at this point, it was put forward for adoption and then presentation to the community and our respective municipal partners.
Okay, so I'm going to look to the board whether you're comfortable adopting it at this time, or if you wanted to leave it open until the next board meeting for adoption based on any feedback, minor edits at this point, or I don't see any major edits. I think we did a lot of those the last time. But, well, I'm going to call it minor editing. But we do have the board message to go in, an edited version of the board message to go in. So I'm going to look to my directors and see what you would like to see done with this, whether you're comfortable with adoption or circulating a draft and then maybe adopting in a month or so. Director Beamish.
One of the purposes, so we have, I'm just looking at the page 20, engagement and communication, to proactively engage with our resident partners and staff in order to share information and obtain their input on issues and decisions that affect them. And I think if we're going to do a legitimate process, I think giving them an opportunity to have input, I think we should just anticipating that we can always determine in the final instance how to accept that input, but at least giving people the opportunity to have that input. And so adopting is a final, but adopting it right now as a draft, ready for discussion, ready for circulation, I think is probably a good approach to take, and bring it back to the next council meeting or board meeting.
Director McMahon?
I'm trying to decide how I can be on both sides of the fence here. I'm fine with circulating it as a draft if we don't make it too much of a process, because there's a lot going on, and we don't want to drag this out into a complicated,
Okay, Director Hiltz?
I'd be the difference between engagement and this is, are we consulting? Are we just showing it to them? Do we want feedback? Will we change it? That's kind of the board at this point. I guess I'm happy with the document. We're 9 months into this, I think, process. So it's an evolving document. My understanding is, right, this is not a fixed thing. This will continue to evolve throughout the term. So it's a living document.
So this is our strategic plan for this term. So there is some flexibility inside of the topics and how they'll roll out, but we're saying that this is the direction that this board is looking to take for the next 4 years. So there could be input from the community as to how that rolls out, but not necessarily on the direction that we're looking at taking, like the overall guidance that we're providing from the document.
Director Hiltz?
So I guess it's the implementation is kind of, that's the gap that I have right now, right? And staff is still preparing that, so I don't quite see the implementation and the plan and how, and all the capacity and how the budget will work with all this. So I guess that's a bit of a missing piece for me, and I'm just...
And that'll be coming from staff or go to Director Seegers and then Director Ties.
So that was part of the process. So when we first got together with staff, together we kind of came up with the topics. Then staff took it away to look at inside of what we put together, is there capacity? How does that feed into this? So that actually has already had a basic look at by staff to say, yes, this works, no, this doesn't work. So then it will show up in the work plans. And going forward, we'll show up in the budget. If there are other items that we want to include, they'll tell us whether or not it's something that can be fit inside of the scope.
Director Ties?
Yeah, I'm wondering if I guess what I'm hearing is somebody should make a motion at this point, and the
That's
motion.
what I'm really hoping for.
Yeah, and so the motion would be that staff circulate our draft strategic plan to our stakeholders and federal, local governments, as well as our committees, as well as staff, and solicit feedback if need be. But we are looking for adoption at the next board meeting, which would be in 2 weeks. So, no? Oh, UBCM, right. It will be in October. Okay, so by our next board meeting then, yeah. Okay.
All right. I'll second that. Discussion on that? Director Seegers?
So do you anticipate that this board message is revised, incorporating the document put forward by Director McMahon, and that the request you had for clarity be incorporated as well? Yes. Okay.
Over to staff, please.
It just affects the timing, because with the adoption that could have occurred today, it doesn't give firm direction to the staff in developing their budgets, which we're working on right now. I sincerely appreciate the need or desire for more input. The document being adopted doesn't preclude that going forward. It just provides a high-level strategic direction on where this board is headed. It doesn't stifle any further discussion of the document, minor amendments to the different tactics, or additional items that aren't even in the strategic plan. So the board can still do that. The difficulty with not adopting it today is staff does not have firm direction that this is the document you want, and therefore we cannot do firm budget proposals for you in the coming months, or weeks, I should say.
And that's a very good point. So, because remember, our last strategic plan was only until 2018, and we had that, I remember from all of the CFO's budget presentations, and there's always that line of, we don't know what the strategic direction of this board is yet. So, and that was part of the reason we went for 2023, is to still provide strategic direction when the new board is producing their strategic plan. But we do have a motion on the floor. So what I would suggest, if we can hear it again, Tracy, please.
And that the draft strategic plan be brought forward to be forwarded to stakeholders and local governments and committees and staff requesting feedback, and that the plan be brought forward for adoption at the next board meeting.
So we do have that motion on the floor. So our options are, we can let that motion die and choose to adopt the strategic plan, knowing that with the caveat there are some edits that need to be made, because we can do that with the edits that are here. And then that way that still provides clear direction to staff, knowing that we can still do a few edits here and there as needed with minor. But our major strategic directions going forward, we know what they are. Staff knows what they are, and which is the most important. So, Director McMahon.
I'd like to get her done.
Okay.
It's not perfect, and we recognize that, but I'm happy with the general direction. So.
Okay. Director Ties.
Well, I think I'm in the firm lead on defeated motions, so I'd like to keep that lead alive. So
I'll call the question then.
Let's go with that then.
Okay. I'll call the question on Andreas's. Sorry.
It was.
Yeah, it was seconded. It is a live motion on the floor. Otherwise, I wouldn't allow discussion. I have a Robert's rules. Yeah, Director Beamish. Okay.
I'd like to propose an amendment to the motion, and that being that staff take the draft plan as direction at this time to develop budget proposals, and with the understanding that there may be additional things come, but they're not going to change significantly, I would say, but it gives them a basis to work from in the interim. But, I just come back to, yes, we've kicked this around a few times. We've never kicked it around in public. We've never given it to the public to look at. It's one of those things, again, of saying, look what we've done for you. And I really prefer to be said, here's our proposals to you. Do you have any input? Do you see anything significantly wrong with what we're saying? So that they have an opportunity. And yes, it takes a little bit more time. But, quite frankly, we're not going to be doing much in the next 2 or 3 weeks. It's outside of this plan. And staff could use this as a basis, saying, well, here's direction that we can work on with this and come back. I just think that, I think in the interest of efficiency, we're already kind of going over some of the principles of the plan that says we will consult. And I just think we need to live to those principles.
Okay, so your proposed amendment is that
Staff use this draft plan as a basis for developing preliminary budget proposals, because that's what's going to be developed for this time.
Okay, so do we have a seconder for that amendment? Okay, we have a seconder for that amendment. I'm going to ask staff about that amendment, if that would provide sufficient direction at this time.
Certainly does. I mean, that at least provides staff with this is the intended direction, and the areas in question are indeed what we're going to be focusing on. So I thank you for that.
Okay, so we have an amendment to the motion that is on the floor. Okay, Director Lee? Okay. So I'm going to call is there any further discussion on the amendment that has been put forward? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment? Okay, none opposed. So we now have an amended motion on the floor. Would anybody like that reread before we vote on that? Or any other comments? Okay, so sorry, Director Ties. It's an amended one, though, so maybe you still have your, yeah. So I'm going to call the question on the amended motion. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you so much, and thank you so much, staff, for your work and your patience with us. So that's fantastic. Anything else on the 2019-23 strategic plan? Seeing none, we are going to go to Annex E on our agenda, number 6, Chief Building Official, notice on title, please. And I will just allow Mr. Whittleton to, whenever you're ready, please go ahead. Or Mr. Hall, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I'll introduce the report, but we have our Chief Building Official here if needed. From time to time, the Sunshine Coast Regional District will register a notice on title in accordance with provincial legislation and board policy where the district becomes aware of a contravention of our building bylaws. And this serves to protect both the regional district and future owners of the property. And at this time, staff recommends that notice be placed on title for the address noted in Annex E on page 31, as a permit to construct has expired without a final inspection. Thank you.
And are the owners of this property are within the audience today? Would you like to speak to the item that's in front of us, to the notice on title? Okay, if you could come up to the microphone, please. Yes, we need to be able to hear you.
So basically all was we had a confusion issue with the deck on the back of the house. It was on the original plan as a smaller deck, and my husband had said to the engineer that, can he build it bigger? And the engineer said he didn't care how big we built it, but we didn't realize we had to get it re-engineered if we wanted to go bigger. So that was the only issue, is just the back deck.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to go to directors for any questions that you may have. Yes, Director Seegers.
Thank you. So this would be a question for staff then. What would be the process to have this property come into a compliance and be able to move forward to final inspection?
When ready?
Thank you, Chair. We're just getting the details ironed out. Final engineering for the deck, followed by final inspection, would allow for the notice on title to be removed.
Okay, I'm sorry, you'll have to come to the microphone and we'll have to, we can ask that, I'll recognize you so you can ask that as a clarifying question as well. And then you have a follow-up? Yes. There we go.
The final inspection to the house has already been done and been approved.
Okay.
It's just the engineering for the deck that we have to get done. And we've been trying, but the engineers aren't returning our calls.
Okay.
And we've been to the offices and no one's there.
Okay. So it could be, right now it's timing then.
It's just trying to get a hold of an engineer that we've been trying for about a year to get a hold of an engineer, and they're just not easy to get a hold of.
Mm-hmm.
But the house itself has been, the final inspection's done, and everything's passed on it.
Okay. Director Seekers? I'm just going to have you stay there.
Again, through staff. So we have not put a notice on title as of yet. That's what the request is here. The applicant is saying that they are looking to come into compliance. I'm wondering if instead of putting notice on title today, we could say 6 months, 3 months, given there's no safety issue, it's around the deck, and then it come back in 6 months. If it's not in compliance at that point, then we'll proceed with putting the notice on title.
We don't mind notice of title being on there because they said if we get the engineer to come, then they'll just take it off. So,
okay.
So it's not an issue to us to have it on there.
Yeah, it's just the process and the cost piece, but we'll go to staff for an answer to Director Seeger's question.
Thank you for the question, Chair Pratt. So yes, the board has discretion to delay the placement of notice on title, and staff would comment that past extensions have ranged from 30 to 90 days in staff's experience.
Mm-hmm.
And for reference, the fee for removal of notice on title is $100. Thanks.
Director Hiltz.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask the applicant, what is the problem with the engineer? Like, is there something I'm going to ask? Could the building inspector contact the engineer to assist? Is there any assistance that the staff can provide? Is there any way that like a comfort letter or something that the regional district could provide to help get attention from with the applicant? Is there any assistance that we can provide to expedite this process?
To expedite with the engineer?
Yes, just
to pressure the engineer to do an engineering?
Assist, I would say, is to provide assistance and clarification, maybe to help explain the situation. Is there?
Report probably does that.
And so this report would be forwarded to the engineer.
Well, I have asked if there's any other engineer.
I'm going to go to GM Hall, please.
Thanks. So staff have attempted to assist here by, as industry professionals talk, by noting to this engineer that this file is a live item. And while staff are not in the practice of recommending any specific engineer, as that wouldn't be fair to the industry, staff would just add that the owner's under no obligation to use any particular engineer to bring this issue into compliance and resolve the matter.
Director Lee?
I understand that the deck was built bigger than the original engineering, which to me would imply there could be a safety risk. It's kind of a concern. I was wondering if there's anything else we could do, such as issuing a new building permit and taking a final on the house and calling the sun deck a new permit, and get the process redone just for the sun deck so that the house itself and all that part's closed off. Is that something that's possible to do?
That's getting to be a bit of a technical question that I'll go to staff on, because it enters in a couple of interesting implications.
Thank you for the question, Chair. Technically, staff believe that what the director is suggesting is possible. However, staff note that from the perspective of the responsible building official, it doesn't change the situation. We still have a contravention of the building bylaw with an expired permit. Thanks.
Okay, Director Seegers?
Thank you. I'd like to make a recommendation that we give the applicant 90 days, and that if it's not in compliance in 90 days, this comes back and notice on title proceeds.
Okay, so...
I said we don't mind the notice on title.
Yeah.
It's an issue for staff and for you. It's just a...
Okay, so we have a motion. Do I have a seconder to that motion? Seconded. Any further discussion on that motion? Director Lee.
I like the idea. I'd like to ask the applicant here, do you see any hope of getting it done in the 90 days, or are we just delaying the inevitable?
They maybe be able to give me some more names of other engineers to call. I've been through whatever's in the proposal. I can't get hold of any. If they have any other engineers that they know of that I don't, it would be great.
I would suggest calling your local real estate office and calling around to the realtors that you may know, and there may be a list that they keep. Because usually...
I sent in to the SCRD pictures of the whole process of it being built, so they can see exactly how.
Yeah, but it's finding a contact with, and then...
Finding somebody that
Okay.
will come out and
Okay, so what the motion on the floor is requesting is a 90-day extension before, and then coming back to the board with them if it hasn't been completed in this time. Director Hiltz and then Director Beamish.
The question I have is, does it expose the regional district to a risk? So I'm trying to weigh the risk of the 90 days. The applicant is happy to take the notice on title. I'm just wondering about the risk as, so that's a staff question. What risk are we exposed to there?
Okay, so a question for staff. What risk are we exposed to?
Thank you for the question, Chair. I suppose theoretically that this extends a risk that we are aware of to the regional district. Staff do note, as noted in the report in front of the board today, that we don't anticipate that there's a life safety risk here. Another risk would be to any future buyer of the property.
Yep. Director Beamish.
I also fall on the risk question. I wonder if the resolution could be amended, because it's really the deck we're talking about. I'm assuming, does the building inspector have any concerns with, or have you looked at the house itself? And are there any concerns with the house? Because if it's only the deck, then perhaps the resolution could be amended to require that the deck not be used in that period of time.
I think from understanding from the homeowner, you said you have occupancy on the home.
The final inspection.
The final inspection. Okay.
Just the deck.
The deck.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay, and then the question, I guess, posed to staff.
yeah.
If
basically what we're doing is authorizing the continuance of the situation, which we're aware of. Who knows what's going to happen, snow loads and all those different things come into play on something like that hasn't been thoroughly engineered. We're substituting our best opinion for that of an engineer right now. My suggestion would be, sure, carry on, don't use the deck, and then our concerns could be alleviated.
I just got one thing.
Certainly, go ahead, sir.
I'm the man that did it, but it's a concrete deck. It's supported like a parquet building. And on the original print, I only went 4 feet bigger than what the print said, right? So he just kind of got disappointed that I didn't come. He told me I can make it as big as I want, but he got disappointed that I didn't go to him first to tell him how big, but it was just a miscommunication. And this deck is 2 years old, and there's not a hairline crack in the jet. So if you want to see the pictures, that's all you need. So
It's full of rebar. And
yeah, it's structurally.
He did a lot of
that's what I do.
Gas plants and stuff like that. He knows how to do concrete.
So we're starting to get a little bit.
Call the question.
Yeah, call the. I don't see any other questions or comments on this. Unless staff has any other comments that they'd like to make at this time. The motion we have on the floor is to provide a 90-day, an additional 90 days to provide that, to get that engineering inspection before we do come back to the board to put notice on title. So that's our motion on the floor. So I'm going to call the question on that motion. All those in favor? Opposed? So I see one opposed. Would you like that registered? Or are you opposed as well? Yeah, okay, so we have 2 opposed. Okay. Do you want it recorded? No? Okay. So the motion passes for a 90-day extension on to get the engineering report into our staff. Yeah. Okay?
Sounds good. We got to get another engineer for another job on out there.
Okay.
So you said real estate agent, I should be able to get
I would call a few of your local realtors will have like a selection of engineers in the area, or same with other developers and builders. So okay, it's one way you can go, just to get other names. Okay,
we've tried 2, but not any success.
Okay,
so.
All right. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Okay. And thank you, Mr. Whittleton. Okay, moving on, we're going to go to Annex F, which is on pages 33, 35 of your package. It's the Chief Administrative Officer's Report. And over to Mr. Brown, please.
Thank you, Chair Pratt. The CAO report is on pages 33 to 35 of your agenda. Basically, it covers a time period from about April till September. The first part of the document refers to some administration and board activities, particularly around orientation, given the board was elected last fall. Throughout 2019, there's been a number of sessions with the board on orientating to facilities, and that continues to be the case. We're planning on more upcoming. On the second page, the staff have been working with the directors on a number of important provincial and federal announcements as well as visitations. So I'd like to thank staff for that. They provided some background materials on meetings with MLAs and directors, and I think there were some fruitful discussions that occurred along with other members of our community. The other part of the report deals with a number of key positions in the organization regarding staffing. From May to September, we had recruitment and replacement requirements for a manager of financial services, a manager of planning and development, and a manager of transit and fleet services. As occurred back in July, the corporate officer position previously performed by Angie Legat has been fulfilled by promoting Sherry Reed from her deputy corporate officer position. And we're currently in the process of recruiting her replacement for the now vacant deputy. There was a new position that was provided for in the financial plan, and that has been filled on August 6th by Matt Trite, who's our new Manager of Protective Services. Matt and I have been attending the various practices of the volunteer fire departments, including Gibson's, Roberts Creek, and Half Moon Bay, and we plan to go to Egmont later this month or early next month. So that was been a good opportunity to introduce him to the community and the fire chiefs and volunteers that he'll be working with. The board was also working with a consultant on ongoing recruitment process to recruit my replacement, because I'm the interim, for a new CAO for the SCRD. Regarding staff development, there's been a number of initiatives in consultation with our Human Resources Department on lunch and learns and awards, conferences that were attended, and all kinds of learning opportunities. This is not an exhaustive list, so we thank our HR department for implementing these, as well as our staff for their interest in personal development, which only helps our organization. With regard to engagement, there was some very successful opportunities to dialogue with the public, in particular the water dialogues, which we've had very positive feedback and an excellent turnout. Collaboration, given my position, I was always, as I stipulated to the board and the staff, that I did not consider myself to be an interim here. I wanted to ensure that the CAO position and that of the SCRD, that there was an opportunity for my replacement to have a good path forward and develop relationships and opportunities for collaboration for our partners within the Sunshine Coast Regional District. So to this end, I've met with all directors of the board, the senior leadership team, and a lot of the staff here. I've met with each of the CAOs of the District of Sechelt, the town of Gibsons, and the new CAO that started on August 26th with the Sechelt Indian Government District, as well as the CAO of our neighboring regional district at Cathat. I'm pleased to report that without a doubt, I've been very welcomed in this community. I have a very good sense that the person coming into this position is going to be working with an excellent board, excellent staff, and excellent colleagues throughout the Sunshine Coast. The CAOs in particular, I think, are really interested in working closely with the staff here at the regional district and working on improving relationships, as well as developing ways that we can cooperate with sharing resources, for example. And the last item was the strategic plan, and we've already covered that one. So with that, we'll be open to any questions if you have any.
Thank you, CAO Brown. I'm going to look at Director McMahon.
I'd just like to thank you for a very good report. I think it hit the balance between being concise and yet providing detail. And thank you very much.
Okay. Director Seekers.
Thank you. I understand it's at your initiative that the CAOs are meeting every 2 weeks at this point. I have to say I'm finding it very refreshing, and I love the collaboration. It is bringing forward more communication between staff, and that feeds up through staff to the councils and the board. So thank you for that initiative.
Okay. Director Beamish?
Yeah, I just want to concur with the Director Seeger's remarks that having that kind of that ongoing CAO meetings between municipalities, I mean, we are moving towards closer cooperation between municipalities at the board level and the municipal levels, and it's led by staff, and continuity is provided by staff, so that's important. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Director Hiltz, I see you brimming there.
I guess it's the ISCRD, the integrated SCRD that we're talking about now. And after the meeting yesterday about that integration and public policy, and I really appreciate the being able to step into the role and the report. Yeah, thank you very much.
And just to reference Director Hiltz's comments, refer to the integrated RCMP meeting we were part of, or we witnessed at the District of Sechelt yesterday, and everything is the I team, so the integrated team. So, but yes, any other comments, questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you so much for your report, and it's been very happy to have you here, and happy to have you here. Yeah, okay. It's it's been a great opportunity, and I've really appreciated your approach. So thank you. Okay, moving on, we have communications. So we have 2 communications. I'm just going to ask directors for a motion to receive our communications, please. So moved and seconded. All those in favor? Is there another one as well? Oh, sorry, this is the second one that we're receiving as well. Okay, all those in favor of receiving? All those in favor of receiving? Thank you. Okay. Oh, really, Director Seegers? Have you seen the letter from yourself? Okay. We are going to start off, though, with Annex G, which is pages 36 to 52, which is the letter from Sandra Stoddard Hansen, who is the chair of the Board of Directors of the BC Ferry Authority. Her tenure is coming to an end, and what she wanted to make sure that we were aware of this, and that we would consider putting names forward from. Previously, when she first came on the board of the BC Ferry Authority, she was the only member of a ferry-bound community that sat on the board. So that's why we feel it's important to. She and I had a conversation about this, and I thought it was prudent to bring forward. So yes, Director Seegers, we'll start with you.
Thank you. On page 37, where's my mic on? Yes. On page 37, she indicates in the letter that the authority will cover the cost of 3 newspaper advertisements and will post on its website nomination forms for online completion and submission directly to the regional district. I'd like us to request that take place. Okay. And there is a deadline, so I'm sure that they can bring forward the dates inside of that, so we can make sure. We'd probably have to work with her around timing, so that it would actually come back to the board for furthering on in time.
Yes.
And staff.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go over to our corporate officer.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we do have a nomination process in place for this. We would publish 3 ads in the newspaper and suggest potentially a deadline of October 11th, and then we would then bring those applications forward to a board meeting for selection. And then following that, there would be communication with the other regional districts in terms of sharing those results.
Okay, certainly.
Does that take into account that they will actually cover the cost of this? So you will be in communication with them around that?
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Okay. And it was, and I'll connect directly with the chairs of the other regional districts also at the same time. And, as we're going through this process, and maybe suggest that they should just allow our nominees to stand. But that'll be me schmoozing. So we have that motion on the floor. May I have a seconder for that? Seconded. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Next on our list is the letter that was just handed out from the District of Sechelt. Now, do we have the letter's writer next to me? And she can speak to this, please.
There are 2 items that have come forward, as we say in the first line on this. One is around regional growth strategy, and the other is the regional water strategies. We are applying to UBCM for funding to help cover off some of the meals if we need that, room rentals, etc. We are requesting a letter of support from each of the organizations that will be part of this. So this letter has also gone to the Sechelt Nation and to the town of Gibsons, and I believe to the regional to the school district as well, to be part of this. So we're requesting a letter of support for our application. That's it.
Okay, any questions looking around the room to the directors? Director Hiltz?
Sure, thanks, Chair. In the letter, it says six meetings. That's a pretty specific number.
Yes.
Why 6? Like, what's the plan? Like,
There's just a draft put together. I think it says something like 3 meetings between November and January or something, and 3 meetings past that. We know that the regional growth strategy, for example, will take a number of meetings together, as well as the water governance. We just picked a number, and it's a draft budget, a draft proposal. We're not held to specifics like that. We will need to gather the costs. We're covering off the other half, or whoever's covering off the other half, and then we'd submit for reimbursement.
Okay, Director McMahon?
Should we be committing staff to 6 meetings without, like, work plans or, oh.
It says commitment
It
to have
said
elected officials or staff.
I don't know. Do we have capacity? That's my question.
I'll ask staff how you feel about this. Do we have capacity, I guess, is the question, if we need staff members to attend. It's going to likely fall onto the senior members, or the senior leadership team.
Just without having a direct consultation with my staff, I don't believe this is a very important topic and subject matter, and can be shared amongst the staff to attend. So unless they're too onerous as far as time duration, I don't think it's insurmountable for us to attend.
So if it's like 6 12-hour meetings, then no. They've left it ambiguous on purpose. Okay. It has to be ambiguous to go in as a proposal, but with detail. Director Beamish.
Could the funding for this be used to actually have a recording secretary who's outside of staff, so that it does not fall on staff to have an additional burden for this?
I think I think the proposal was to cover off rooms, like any kinds of tea, coffee, that kind of stuff, but also facilitators, because as we're doing the regional growth strategy or the water governance, we may need some facilitation. So that's in there as well. Okay. It's just it's ambiguous, basically to give us some funds to help cover off whatever it is we're going to need to do in the next bit.
All right. Yes, but it helps too. We have a lot of lofty goals on being collaborative and communicative, and this would really help to support this piece. So thank you to the District of Sechelt for bringing this forward. We don't yet have a motion to support it yet. I was coming to that, but thank you for the reminder. Yes, Director Beamish.
Question again, but are we going to do this again?
Microphone, please.
Are we going to be doing these meetings in isolation of the public, or are there other people who could actually be invited to attend as resource people or as special interests?
Over to Director Seegers.
That's all up for negotiation and discussion. This really it's very broad. What we're just saying, we want to have these meetings. We know we're going to have facilitators there. We know we're going to have support. We're looking at having some meetings around regional growth strategy and water governance, and that's pretty much it. That's all it says.
Director McMahon.
I'd like to move a letter of support for this proposal.
Thank you. May I have a seconder for that? Seconded. Any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you once again, District of Sechelt, for bringing that forward. We do not have any motions today, but we do have bylaws. And the first one is Annex H, which is pages 53 to 54 of your package. It is the Community Recreation Facilities Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 599.9, 2019. And we are going to be doing first, second, third reading and adoption at this meeting. If we so go. Yeah, yes, Director Seeger's question first.
Yes, I don't see any information about why this is coming forward. Are we changing fees? Are there, what is, why is this here?
Okay, our corporate officer, please.
So the board approved a resolution to amend the bylaw to establish a youth pool lane rental. So the attached schedule has a new youth column on it, and these fees were previously approved at a meeting earlier. I think it was in May, actually.
Thank you for that reminder. Okay, thank you for asking the question. Okay, so voting on this is a weighted vote. Area B gets 2 votes. Sorry, Area A, you get none. Area D gets 2 votes. Area E gets 2, Area F 2, Gibsons gets 3, Sechelt 6, and the Sechelt Indian Government District gets 1. Okay, so, all right. So I am going to ask that Community Recreation Facilities Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 599.9, 2019 be read for a first time. So moved, seconded. All those in favor? Motion carries. I'm going to ask that Community Recreation Facilities Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 599.9, 2019 be read for a second time. So moved, seconded. All those in favor? Motion carries. And we're now going to go to third reading. Community Recreation Facilities Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 599.9, 2019 be read for a third time. So moved, seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carries. And if I can ask for, we're going to go for adoption of Community Recreation Facilities Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 599.9, 2019. Move adoption. So moved, seconded. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Terrific. And one more bylaw. This is Sunshine Coast Regional District Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 310.180, 2019. And this is for the electoral area directors, 1 vote each. And I'd like to ask for a motion to adopt, please. Len, you can actually, we'll let you, do you want to move adoption? No? So moved? Seconded? Seconded. Electoral area directors only. All those in favor? Motion carries. Woo! Okay. On to directors' reports. It seems like so long since we've done this. So I'm going to go up north, and we're going to start with Area A and Director Lee. We're on our directors' reports. We are. And you get to go first. Oh, turn your microphone on and tell us that.
Well, I must say I enjoyed the summer. It was hard to tell that we were on a hiatus. There was a lot of local issues that continue to come up in Area A. I did enjoy attending the AGM from Ruby Lake and Saginaw Lake. They have big community associations there. And they have quite a unique outlook on their properties and their associations. They kind of feel like the lakes are theirs and they're looking after it, and I like it that way. So I'm pleased to report that everything is going good. They're very nice people to deal with. And even though they're a little isolated from the general community, they are concerned about the general community, and they are supportive of us as the SCRD. So it was good to see, and it was nice to have the time to do that. But other than that, the issue of, well, there's no other way to describe it. Junk on the properties is always a topic every time someone gets too close to me, I get to hear about the latest one with junk on the properties.
Derelict garbage?
Yes, derelict vehicles, derelict boats, and storage of what people consider less than treasures, but the owner does consider them treasures. So it's a unique thing to a rural area. I might be guilty of a little of it myself, so I'm a little sympathetic. But somehow, I guess it's a sign of a community growing up that it becomes a topic of interest. And so it's a challenge in the future that we're going to have to deal with in Area A. But other than that, all's good, and it was a great summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lee. We will go down the coast and go to Area F and West Howe Sound. Director Hills.
Thank you, Chair Pratt. Yeah, it does seem like a long time ago, and I was tired at the end of July, so I really did appreciate the time off. And during that time off, I attended a couple annual general meetings for the Eastbourne Community Association and the Gambier Island Community Association. And kind of the interesting things for that are it's the 45th one for Eastbourne, and it's the 75th anniversary AGM for Gambier Island. So what it shows to me is people have been solving problems of how they organize themselves and share resources before even the regional district existed. So I guess that is something that comes about. Visited during the island's cleanup. I went over to the islands to see what happens on an island for solid waste management. And it's quite an interesting thing to see in one day for the southwest peninsula of Gambier Island, about 200 people, all their solid waste gets packed into 5 containers like the size of the one over by Sunco, like a 20 to 40 meter, and that's how they, it's a lot to manage, right? And it happens one day a year, and it's a very appreciated service. Just to kind of, it helped to put the islands in perspective. And one of the stats in a report from 2016 was 960 properties on the islands have improvements, which is about equal to what it is on the mainland. Yeah, I'm still looking at that report and trying to square out these numbers. And something unique about islands in terms of solid waste is when a property is transferred, often the contents goes with it. Right? Because once it's on the island, no one wants to take it away. So this is where one of the issues in the solid waste was mattresses. So when there's a turnover of property, people leave their stuff behind, and the new owner has to deal with this, and there's no dump that they can take it to easily. So it was just an interesting thing about islands. Language about the Eastbourne water system. It's a water system with distributed storage. So everyone has their own water tank, right? So it's a way, rather than a big reservoir, the central big reservoirs, it's about everyone gets a little bit. So just ask yourself, how much water do you have in your refrigerator and ice cubes? Like probably not a lot to keep you going. So the islands are kind of, for me, it's a throwback to what it was before we had all these services. So it's interesting. What else about? I attended the Ocean Watch Task Force, and one of the things that came out of that is that the eelgrass mapping for Howe Sound should have a presence and absence for the whole of Howe Sound by the end of September. So that should help, and that mapping data is supposed to come to the regional district. What else? The islands. The islands was probably the focus of where I put my time, and what's becoming apparent about Howe Sound is as the beauty of Howe Sound is being re-known. It's not the industrial waste of before. It's attractive to people, both from recreation and people becoming more full-time residents. So Eastbourne, they actually have about 26 full-time residents, and in the past it was maybe 2 or 3. So Howe Sound is just creating a lot of interest. And then the other thing that I got to do was dig into a book, and it's called Local Government in British Columbia by Robert Bish. I wish I had that a year ago. I forgot all about this book, and most of the staff probably, oh yeah, we know all about that book. But I highly recommend it to everyone, and I'm looking at maybe a bulk purchase. We can get them at $10 a piece. So, but it's an excellent book. And what were the takeaways? Economy of scale and economies of scope. So I really recommend Bish. And lots of constituent issues and highway safety. And I did have a discussion with you, Chair Pratt, about as elected representative, when I go out on a highway with a resident, I am considering that to be my workplace. So I am wearing a Visi vest when I go out there, and the constituents that I'm taking out there, I am providing a Visi vest because I'm taking them into my workplace, I feel. So I would like in the future for staff to kind of talk about that personal safety aspect of us when we go out on site for whatever reason. But the highways, they're a dangerous place, right? So I think that's enough. Thanks.
That's a lot. Okay. Thank you so much. We're going to go down to the creek and find out what's going on in Director Tice's neighborhood, please.
Thank you, Chair. The creek was very, very busy, having summer on its doorstep, and things were fairly quiet on the director's email inbox, which was quite nice. I was a bit sad to miss Creek Days. I was on a sailboat headed towards Desolation Sound at the time, and I did enjoy some of the finer things of Penda Harbor along the way. So that was nice. But yeah, managed to get away a couple times, and really not much to report other than that. Thanks for all the support for Creek Days from all the different jurisdictions, and I haven't had a debrief with the organizers yet, but I'm hoping that next year it'll be even bigger and better. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll go back over towards the southern part of the coast and the town of Gibsons. Director Beamish.
Well, thank you. Since coming back in August, been busy. We are a government, so there's always something going. Even though we take time off, it doesn't mean things stop. So we either are addressing things while we're away, or we have a list of things when we get back. So it was good, though. One thing we did recently was celebrate the retirement of Wendy Gilbertson. I don't know if you know Wendy. Those who do know her, 36 years for the town of Gibsons. And she done an excellent job. She was responsible for the pool. She was responsible for many aspects of what we see today in Gibsons in terms of parks, Lower Gibsons, the beautification of Lower Gibsons, and a lot of that I attribute to the work and the planning and the ideas that came from Wendy. Now, she's gone on to be the coroner for the Sunshine Coast, so that it's one of those questions. She knows everybody, and now she knows where they're buried. So that then she will be, she will be filling up the cemetery, I'm sure, Andrea, so that we have no more worries. So it was an excellent afternoon and a good send-off for her. We really appreciate it. Councillor Kroll and I attended the Community Advisory Team meeting, Community Action Team meeting in Sechelt at the Sechelt Band Elders Room. Was that last week or was that this week already? Yeah, just everything flows. So this week, and that was a very good meeting as well. We held a procedural workshop with council, and that was really with our corporate officer. We've been there almost a year now, and trying to kind of correct some of the mistakes that we keep making, and remind ourselves that there are procedures that we're required to follow. We're going to be doing a couple of amendments into our procedure bylaw and other things, but it was just a good opportunity for us to talk about how things are going and how we need to pay attention to the details. And yesterday, Councillor Kroll and I also attended the integrated RCMP unit briefings in Sechelt, and they were excellent. It was very good awareness on our part, and it's good to see what's happening. So that was very good, and we have our draft strategic plan out now. It's at least I've got a copy of it, and we'll be consulting with the community on that on the 30th. So that looking forward to that. So thank you everybody for keeping things going while we were gone, and thank you for all the work that we all do. It's busy times. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Beamish. And how was the trip?
The trip was excellent. I just didn't want to give you how I spent my summer vacation, but
well, it's kind of how this is.
Yeah.
It's been a month. So,
Haida Gwaii, we spent 10 days on there, and that was excellent. So.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Good. Over to Everything Elphinstone and Director McMahon, please.
Well, I'm really happy to report a negative, which we all had this summer, which was that we didn't go to stage 4 and we didn't have any serious forest fires. I feel like we really dodged a bullet, and thank heavens for it. We had visitors. I had distant cousins visiting from the other Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia, and they went back home last week to 80 wildfires burning in Queensland. It's the worst wildfire season they have ever had, and for them it's early spring. They are not even in summer wildfire season, and it's pretty darn scary down there. I did lots of things, but I'm not going to report on most of them. I went last Friday to the AVICC Climate Change Action Committee meeting in Nanaimo, hosted by Mayors Lisa Helps from Victoria, Michelle Staples from Duncan, and Josie Osborne from Tofino. Now I will digress to say that it was very interesting going there because I took the float plane because, as you all know, trying to take the ferry to Nanaimo is a ridiculous exercise. And I get down to the harbor, and it's all very nice, and there's all these signs for tourists and everything. Not one of them mentions public transit. Not one. There's a bus loop down in Nanaimo, and there's, good bus service and everything, but not the faintest inkling of a sign. So I did find the bus stop. I caught the bus over to the regional district. You get off. There is a sign on the curb showing that there is a regional district, but there is no signage for where's the office, like where's the entrance to this building. There's no hint because, of course, nobody's supposed to arrive by bus. So what you have to do is you walk around to the parking lot, which is where all the signs are. And then I got into the building, and I was entirely fascinated that their Wi-Fi system is completely free. I don't even have to agree to all the terms and conditions. But their washrooms are locked and pass-coded. So just in case you're there, it's 2222 if you need to use the washroom. What if you need to do that? Oh boy. All right. So the Climate Action Committee background paper was circulated to all the directors, so you know what it's about. It will be interesting to see how that goes. The initial meeting was mostly concerned with exchanging notes between. We had a fairly frank discussion about how the different governments feel about climate change and where we think we are going forward. And they were working on terms of reference because there were several governments that didn't want to appoint anybody to this committee without having terms of reference first. My understanding is that AVICC sort of took the lead on this because they kept waiting for UBCM to get the thumb out, and they didn't. So AVICC jumped in and said, we're doing this, and now UBCM has suddenly said, we're going to have a climate change action thing. So I'm not sure how this will all eventuate. I'm sure we'll hear something about it one way or another at UBCM. Two upcoming things that I just wanted to bring your attention to. The Streamkeeper training, which is happening on September 21st and 22nd. The deadline for that has been extended to today. If the last time I checked, there were 2 spots open still. So if you know anybody who is interested in taking Streamkeeper training, we need all the Streamkeepers we can get on the Sunshine Coast. You can ask me more about it. And I just wanted to mention that September 22nd will be Car-Free in Lower G Day from noon to 6 p.m. in the parking lot of Gibson's Public Art Gallery. And I hope it doesn't rain. And I'll be there with the Coast Car Co-op.
Terrific. Thank you, Director McMahon. Okay, so we're going to go over to the District of Sechelt, and Director Lamb, please.
Well, it's short and sweet for me. I had the summer off. Thank you.
Nicely done, Director Lamb. Okay. Director Seegers, did you have the summer off?
No.
Okay.
I didn't have the summer off. I did enjoy a month of no agendas. And it was almost like the opposite of withdrawal last week when they started coming again. And I recognize staff have not been off. And so we've been kind of this log jam. Well, oh my goodness. Our first agenda at the district started out 250 pages. So I get it. Yeah, I get it. I'm not, that's the part of this that, while I enjoy the information, I don't enjoy having to spend the hours reading all the agendas. You know, like 500 pages a week. It's a lot. During the summer, it's an amazing time to be here in Sechelt. Usually, we go away in the summer for a bit to spend time with our kids out in Alberta. And this summer, we actually had family come out here. So it's the first time actually that we've lived here, that we've actually stayed here all summer. So that was really nice. We got away on our boat. I didn't realize how much I'm in a fishbowl all the time. I'm in the paper way too much. So it was nice to get away. I took part in a lot of different activities on the Sunshine Coast. It's an amazing place to be in the summer. So what has happened since? In Sechelt, we have welcomed our new staff. We have Andrew Allen, formerly from the regional district. He's been getting his feet wet, and all the developers are coming forward to meet with him, all that kind of stuff. Dave Douglas is starting in on budget, came from Gibson's. And we've just hired our new HR director, part-time at this point because of school commitments, but will be coming forward. It's a lady, I haven't met her yet. She is from the Sunshine Coast. She's from the Sunshine Coast. This.
What
Sunshine
government
Coast.
did you steal her from?
Not from government. She came to us, she has government experience, but came to us from private industry. On our agenda, we have already approved the Farmers and Artisans Market 5-year agreement, so they're moving forward. Trail Avenue construction tender has been approved. That project will start moving forward. We have reduced the scope somewhat just because of cost overruns. So it's going to be from the highway up to Anchor, which is where if you come by the Lighthouse Pub up the top of the hill, just past Anchor it's going to go. There'll be the highway or the road be done plus separated bike and walking paths all the way up. We also have funding to do from Reef Road to Kinnickinnick Park. So there'll be peace in the middle. It's still out there. If we can kind of get the money together somehow, we'll do the whole piece. But that'll be the spine for the rest of the development of bike and walking paths in Sechelt. Upcoming, all kinds of things coming up this week. This coming Saturday, there's a Wood Expo being put on by the Community Forest. Always an amazing event to go to. That's at the Seaside Center from 10 until 5. And Lehigh Open House. Lehigh is doing this open house this year. Usually they give out gifts each year. This year what they've done is they've partnered with the CII Reconciliation Group. So everybody who comes, Lehigh will donate to the CII so much per person. So even if you just stop in, they'll count you. Money goes towards the CII. What else are we going on? EV Festival coming up on the 21st of this month. So the Electric Vehicle Festival. A couple of other things that are coming forward. We're doing a lot of work behind the scenes on some of our foundation documents in Sechelt. We have some workshops coming up on Bylaw 430, which is our subdivision and development control bylaw. They'll be coming forward to council for some review and some input. Our liquid waste management plan, we're doing a special committee of the whole meeting on that. That's all next week. Lots of work going on. And it's great to get the foundation stuff in place. Our zoning bylaw is also being worked on right now. That'll probably come forward later this fall. I think that's enough for now. Thank you.
Terrific. So we ended up in September, and here we are at the end of another summer, and I realize I haven't gone to the lake and I haven't gone in the ocean. So summer's not quite over yet, so even though the weather has changed. I'd like to echo how happy I am that we didn't hit stage 4, because I know a couple of months ago it's with the long-term forecast, and we lucked out with rain at the right time, and the community's cooperation with reduction in water. And I can't express enough gratitude for not having to go there, thanking the staff so much for their work and effort with this, and for the board as well, and our communication out. Because I feel the arrows and comments online, and letters in the paper and everything. So I end up in the paper a little bit too. So it's weird. Yeah, that's why I don't go grocery shopping anymore, because I get looks from people who are like, I don't know who you are, and I know you know who I am, so I'm just not going to make eye contact anymore. Yesterday, attending the District of Sechelt Committee of the Whole and hearing from the RCMP with the integrated teams, that was really eye-opening, and it was great to get that overview of how they support our community and how they support the Lower Mainland Division, and hearing about the successes they have, and just the level of expertise that we have, and that our local RCMP have if they need that support. Earlier this week, I met with the superintendent, the school board chair, the principal at Half Moon Bay Elementary, and also with with the community school coordinator. And next week I'll be meeting with the student council at Half Moon Bay Elementary and discussing how to engage them in all issues related to Half Moon Bay. And then also starting the conversation on how to engage with high school students, and talking about that, and bringing them more into the forefront with the regional district. And we've gotten a lot of correspondence lately on supporting youth and supporting family, like for example with transit, having the fare changes with the lane, or the swimming fare changes is one good example of how concentrating on helping out our families and to make things to support our youth on the coast. And it's one thing that Vital Signs, earlier today, it seems like a lifetime ago now, that we had Wendy Francis here describing the Vital Signs report, and in 2009 it was shown as a shock on that report how few of that 19 to 40-year-old age bracket there was on the coast, because you have to move to go to post-secondary education. And we're anecdotally hearing a little bit more uptick of more young people moving in, but it's really hard to keep our youth here when we don't have post-secondary, and if we don't have good economic development. So it's I'd like to engage our youth as much as we can, support our youth as much as we can. As my youth have all moved away in my home this year, so that's what I spent my August doing, was getting kids home from international trips and then sending them on their way to university. I have one in Nova Scotia who just went through not Hurricane Dorian, but the Storm Dorian or whatever, and it's just a big adventure. She's loving it out there, and so it's a strange time of life for me right now. On the other side, I attended the Sunshine Coast Festival of the Written Arts welcome reception. It was so great to see how many Canadian writers are supported within our community, and it is the longest writers festival of that kind in Canada, which is the all Canadian too. It is the only one all Canadian. Looking forward to the landfill tour tomorrow. I'm glad it's not like a really hot day for that, but yay. And the other part of how I spent my summer vacation is I think I was reading agenda packages from other local governments because I was going into shock not having to read my own. So Gibson's, complied with 400 plus pages for their first council meeting. So yeah. So catching up with what everybody else was doing. And then, of course, had some really informative meetings with MLA Furstenau, thank you. And I guess, and with leader of the Greens, Andrew Weaver, as well as when Sheila Malcolmson was here too. That was a fantastic conversation. A couple of meetings with our MLA, Nicholas Simons, and then just a couple of times with Member of Parliament, Pamela Goldsmith-Jones, who really is, technically her job is done. Well, ish. But so we're going to really miss her. So August kind of went by in a blur. But I will, I'll pass this around. I delivered the scholarship for the Rural Director Scholarship for not just for Pender Harbour but also at Chattaleach. And Chattaleach, they'd actually take a photo. So this is Erin Lane who received the scholarship from the Rural Directors at Chattaleach, and I'll pass that along both ways, and I'll put a frame on it and we'll put it in the office or put it either in the director's office. Yeah, so that's a neat one. So anyone else, because I know you handed out a few. So yeah, they do photos at Chattaleach, and so you actually get a professional photo done after. So that's it's just a nice little legacy. With that, I'm going to say that's done for our director's reports. We have no new business, but we do have in camera. And so I'd like a motion that the public be excluded from attendance at the meeting in accordance with Section 91A, C, E, G, K, and I of the Community Charter, personal information about identifiable individual, labor relations and other employee relations, the acquisition, disposition, expropriation of land, litigation or potential litigation, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege. So we'll make that motion. We'll adjourn and then we'll ask for questions. So moved, seconded. All those in favor? Motion carries, and we'll ask for questions. So we'll go to the audience first and then over to media. Okay.